What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Canes Insight Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. It is Wednesday, my favorite day of the week. I am here with the increasingly less clothed Mike Ryan. How you doing?
Tan. That's why I took the last couple of weeks off. I've just been tanning.
Hey, listen.
I miss you guys. Happy to be back. I know it was the doldrums of spring, but we got a spring game that a lot of people are excited about. I'm excited to pick your brain. I've kind of been disconnected from it. So I'm going to get downloaded here, debriefed, and I want to talk to the number one men's basketball insider in the market, Peter Rees, about where we stand. Very exciting time. It looks like we're going to have a completely new team next year, which is great. So, Pete, hop in.
Listen, that's Trenton Breeze owns that title as the number one basketball insider. These were the portal. Yeah, man. Sunday football.
Yeah.
Sunday football.
Had the pleasure and privilege of playing soccer with Pete. I've never seen someone patrol from center back with hold up play all the way up the pitch.
I'm a libero, man. I'm a libero. What can I say?
I mean, he plays big. He plays strong. He's got some touch to his passes.
Well, you're giving me a little credit, too much credit.
Great field
vision.
vision.
Our whole recording schedule is based around, soccer games being played, soccer games being watched and analyzed. So it's been a
rough one
yesterday. It's been a transformation there for young Pete.
Well, yeah, rough one yesterday. I got a lot of work ahead of me for next week.
Yeah. Well, Pete, I want to get to men's basketball in a little bit, but we have a spring game to get hyped for. Now, it's not the quarterback that we expect playing, although how good is he really if he didn't crack Bud Elliott's top 10 returning quarterbacks list? I think number one has thrown as many passes this spring as our guy. So Carson Beck will not factor, but there's plenty of things to get excited about, plenty of other quarterbacks we got an eye on. You were in a group chat that I'm in, and you started hyping up CJ Daniels, which is something that excites me a little bit because we don't know what the transfer marketplace is going to be exactly when it comes to wide receiver. I think we all have a pretty good idea that we need to upgrade that, even though guys like JoJo Trader, due to I've heard some of the podcast episodes, JoJo Trader seems to be taking that next step up. But I think it's still pretty try to upgrade the talent in that wide receiver room. Tell me why I should maybe tap the brake a little bit. What's looking good out there in that wide receiver room?
So start with Daniels, who you mentioned first, the oldest player in the room, most proven, the veteran of the group. So I interviewed him yesterday for Storm Sessions. That should be coming out sometime next week on Miami's official channel. Like and subscribe to that one if you haven't. Again, Miami Hurricanes official channel, Storm Sessions. So he was great. Awesome interview. Super smart kid, really engaging. And he had a really, really good couple practices. Is starting to get full speed. He had a foot injury that happened during the LSU season, slowed him down, took away some of the speed that you might have seen at Liberty. Was still a very good possession receiver for LSU, caught the ball, started, did all that, was very reliable. But the dynamic ability you saw at Liberty, I think it was like close to 20 yards per catch. You saw that take a step back when he left that program and got hurt. So had surgery, has been working his way back, and now full go at practice, making plays, red zone, down the field. The quickness is there. He's got great hands. He's got size, and just a smart guy from the Atlanta, Georgia area. Another guy from Atlanta, Georgia I want to talk about, switching gears from receiver.
Wait, one quick thing, though. On CJ Daniels, Brian Kelly was strangely complimentary of CJ Daniels in that he doesn't really speak about players that way. He doesn't really speak about anybody that way. Part of the deal in getting CJ down here was there's an adult in the room, a mature type of leader. I know it's only spring and he's new to the team, but have you seen that?
100%. Part of that is, to lead, you got to play, right? So him playing and making plays is going to allow him to lead through the summer. The fact that he's able to get back during spring and show people, hey, I'm good. You don't just have to watch highlights. You could see that I'm good. That way, over the course of the summer, he's able to lead from a position of, everybody respects what he can do on the field. I think that's important. But yeah, he's a mature guy. I think he played a similar role at LSU from what I'm told. They had that guy Lacey, who was a little bit of a loose cannon. Daniels helped rein him in a bit. And Brian Kelly, like you said, glowing remarks on him. That's the word from all the staffers that we've had contact with at LSU. And Kelly even said publicly that he was playing hurt. They were barely getting him through the week of practice to get to the game.
Lacked explosiveness. The injury would kind of explain that. Who's the other kid from Atlanta you want to talk to me about?
Oh, got to talk about Luke Nickel. So Pete talked about it yesterday. If you want to see that practice report, he pulled that one off yesterday on our channel. But, just really the last few practices, I am extremely impressed by Luke Nickel. Always been a fan. You make fun of me on this show for
no,
comparing certain throws to Cam Ward, certain runs to Tim Tebow.
No. I'm not. I'm very staunchly team.
I
Luke
was
Nickel,
the one who was doing that.
Pete was the guy that opposed you on the Luke Nickel front. I've been a Luke Nickel guy since day one.
I was heavily opposing those comparisons.
It's just comparing
the
plays.
Cam Ward Tim Tebow hybrid.
I think it was Jalen Hurts also was thrown in there.
I'm just comparing plays, right? That's all I'm doing. Comparing glimpses.
Well, has he looked like that?
Yes, in that throw specifically that you try to short him 20 yards on, that is absolutely what he looked like, Cam Ward.
Well, I'll tell you what Luke Nickel does like Cam Ward is you see him in high school and you say, all right, well, he's not DJ Lagway size and arm. Maybe he's more of a game manager. But what Luke Nickel is fundamentally is he is a playmaker. He is not afraid to throw the football. That was the case in high school with great players around him. Comes to Miami, has time with maybe the lesser players on the depth chart because he's a freshman starting off. So he's getting snaps off the ground. He's throwing to receivers that might not be playing football for too many more years. So it was very challenging, but he was aggressive from the first practice, no matter who was around him. He wasn't scared. He wasn't checking down, taking sacks, trying to avoid mistakes. He was out there playing football, trying to make plays. So there's some adjustment to the college game. You kind of test your limits a little bit and see what works, what doesn't, understanding your personnel, understanding what you're going against. But I think the fact that he was always aggressive and not afraid to throw was always a very positive sign. And now you're seeing, with more experience, more reps, better players around him in terms of who he's playing with, the game is slowing down. He is making more and more plays, and we'll see how it looks at the spring game with everybody watching. But I'm extremely confident in the future of Luke Nickel because the guy is a natural playmaker. He will learn to manage games. He won a lot of games in high school because he knows how to manage a game, but he is not a game manager. This guy's a playmaker. He has that resilience that you want to see in a quarterback, the short memory. Big fan of Luke Nickel, and he has been balling on Green Tree the past couple practices.
Pete, I have to ask you, where are you at now on Luke?
No, I mean, I'm pretty much. It's not that I didn't think he was going to be.
You didn't think that he was Tim Tebow, Jalen Hurts, Cam Ward.
Yes, I think when people have screamed that he's underrated nationally, right? I think that a lot of that comes from the fact that he's not the biggest. He doesn't have the biggest arm, and I think D's being nice in a way of saying that. The learning curve, I think, is attributed to a lot of that. He can't just rely on physical skills out there when he doesn't. When he's not with the ones, right? So, I think that learning curve in terms of like what he can. It was what I said on the show yesterday. Like learning what he can and can't do. Some of the stuff that he could get away with in high school with better players relatively around him to what he's used to at Miami. I think there was just naturally going to be some struggles early on, as there is with almost any quarterback. And I think this is, as I said yesterday, it's nice to see him finishing strong here from everything that we've heard. Because look, you had a good, really great day yesterday. From what we understand, had a solid weekend, has another opportunity. I'm not sure what practice will be like tomorrow in terms of like the intensity level and all that with the spring game Saturday, but you cap it off here with a strong spring game performance. If you're him, you have to be feeling really, really good about, where you leave yourself here going into the summer.
Position battles. Now, these aren't necessarily going to be settled here in the spring, but it does give you a launch pad into the fall. What should we be looking out for? What is the coaching staff looking out for? And is there some jockeying on the depth chart that can be done with this spring game?
Wide receiver, which we started off talking about, I was focused on CJ Daniels, but you also have young players. You mentioned JoJo Trader. I think he's going to be a focal point with the way he's progressed.
Where is he on the depth chart right now, would you assume?
I would say
the reps.
I would say we lost 4 guys, right? We lost Restrepo, George, Brown, Horton. Those were the 4. So you got 4 spots to fill. I think one of those will be filled by CJ Daniels. One of those for sure will be filled by JoJo Trader. Now you kind of figure out the rest, right? Ray Joseph's having a really good camp. Malachi Toney is pushing him and has been outstanding.
It's great to see Ray's answered the bell there.
Well, yeah, he's a smart guy. He's a hard worker. He's always trying to improve. I think he's leaned out, gotten a little quicker. But man, Malachi Toney is something special. I think all 3.
So Ray's gotten smaller.
Leaner.
Dude, he was thick last year. He was
really.
Yeah, he had put on a lot of weight last year.
I couldn't tell. I guess it's because of the baggy like punt
No,
returner
it was
jersey.
one of
Yeah.
the, it was something
very
that we
slimming.
in the preseason. That's like, and when I was doing these reports the same way that I'm doing now, like I was saying this a lot during the fall last year. And then I actually said to someone in practice, like the second practice, I was like, it looks like Ray slimmed down, and I think it's helped him a bit. Remember, he was a running back in high school, so I mean that other portion, I mean, his body type, yes, he was shorter, but he was pretty stout last year.
So those guys are doing their work in the slot primarily.
100%. Yeah. That number 5 is slimming. I think the single digit takes off about 10 to 15 pounds just with the jersey. So he'll be good, but Malachi's pushing. Josh Moore's been outstanding as an outside receiver.
I want to see on Josh Moore.
Let's talk about
especially if you upgrade at the position. Yeah, it's safe to assume you're going to get an upperclassman that's going to come down here. That'll certainly stagger the development a little bit, but Josh Moore is wildly popular on social media. I assume he's wildly popular on the Canes inside boards because this dude is toolsy. He's got the look, and there's certain clips that I've seen that certainly get me excited on social media. I think people are kind of hoping that they got a real good one, an undervalued one at the position that might be able to come in immediately and make an impact. What's my reality check on Josh Moore?
You're right there. I mean, I think this guy he was billed as a 4-star receiver, but On3 had him as a top 50 type receiver. I mean, top 50 player, I should say, in the country. Other sites had him as just more of a normal 4-star. Seeing him in person, I would put him closer to what On3 had him as just because of the size. He's able to separate. His contested catch ability is insane. He went viral with that one-handed catch he did on that walk-on that they put out on the Hurricanes official account. So
what are you saying on putting out any clips on social media?
Yeah. Shout out to the communications department out there. They did a nice video on that centennial, that 100-year highlight reel. Did you see that with Santana Moss?
I did not see that one. I missed the birthday. I got to check in on old girl and wish her happy belated. She looks great though for 100.
Yeah. So,
but I know that we ran into this, if we can pull back the curtain a little bit on Lofton specifically. There was, some contention like, hey, maybe don't put this out there a little bit because like this dude is flashing on social media.
What do you mean? Lofton, they put him at what would they show? I didn't miss this
like during the
controversy.
during the spring. I know like some people on the staff were like, hey, maybe don't put out like some of these crazy clips of him playing so well and looking so good over there. We kind of want to hold this weapon kind of in secret a little bit over there. These are state secrets a little bit. Josh Moore, though, doing that to a walk-on, I guess it's safe.
Happy birthday to Josh Moore, by the way. We get Kevin Dennis reminding us that Josh Moore, it's his birthday today. So happy birthday to Josh Moore. Yeah, Lofton, I mean, I've definitely not hidden. I think he's the best player on the team. So, and it's funny, whenever I say that, people like,
I can't believe he keeps just glossing over Mawanoa. I don't care that he's an offensive lineman. Like you can't. I'm sorry, D, and I understand that you see this stuff in practice, but like I love Lofton, and I'm not saying he's not one of the top 2 or 3 players on the team, but Mawanoa is an all-American type tackle who's going to be a top 10 to 15 pick. Like I have to see it. I still have to see it from Lofton. I get it. Like we saw some flashes last year, but I can't just say that just because Mawanoa is not getting the ball, his impact on this team and part of the big culture change, I believe. I'm an offensive line guy.
I get what both of you guys are saying. I think in terms of doing your job and excelling at your job, I think that's a prism that T-Money is looking at this through. That being said, Pete can still be well within his right to disagree when we're talking about a guy that's projected to go top 10 in next year's NFL draft.
No doubt. He's the best prospect on the team. I'm not debating that part of it. And he's a great player, impactful player. But Pete, I'm telling you, you talk to staffers, float what I'm saying and see how they react, because people that are around the program, I've asked them, like, am I crazy saying this?
My thing is
and
like,
say,
what,
no,
then
right.
what? I get it. But then, I mean, you would have thought that he would have been a bigger part of the game plan.
I think
he had Elijah
for a freshman. He had a role carved out for him on the team, and he had some big moments. And now he's slotted basically T1 for next season. I think he's, in terms of trajectory, and keep in mind, this is a guy that, looking at his body type, you struggle looking at him conventionally. How do I use this guy? I think Miami did pretty well by him his freshman season.
Hold on. We gotta stop this. We have a comment that you guys are gonna love right here. This is very important stuff right here from Christianville. He said, y'all look extra brown today. Great tans.
We do look pretty good.
Then you have to see, you complained about the lighting for many weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then you looked inside and saw that it was just about the tanning process.
I'm still much darker than I appear on screen right now. I have a much better tan than even the viewing audience realizes. I'm up there competing with the likes of D-Money at this point. Pete, you can vouch for me right now. This is about as good as my mocha skin has ever looked. It's close.
It's a close one.
It's close.
Close one.
Yeah, but all the complaining about the lights, it reminds me of like my son. He thinks he has like a magic bat. And then he has a good game with another bat and he realizes the bat was not magic. It was inside all along. That's the analogy I would use for you and the lights. You got to look internally sometimes.
You're still capable of blaming
things because the lights haven't changed. Lights haven't changed. We haven't spent on the lights.
No, my tan has definitely changed, but the issues persist.
All right, so we were talking about Josh Moore. Actually, talking about Lofton. One thing on Lofton.
Wait, who won the debate? Is it CC or Lofton?
I mean, until he plays more, he's gonna.
Has Bain done enough this spring to creep back into that conversation? Because it's pretty crazy to me that we're having a conversation about who the best football player on the team is, and we're going with Lofton ahead of Bain.
He's in the conversation. Carson Beck is going to factor into, and you talk about prospects. Carson Beck could be the first one of all these guys picked if he has a good season. He probably has the most production out of all these guys in the can against good competition.
Cross-reference with Bud.
Yes, right. Yeah, what do you have on there? The quarterback for Washington, the freshman.
Yeah,
that's the 5'11" freshman.
You didn't have Arch Manning on there.
Yeah, it's listen, we'll see how that one goes. But as far as best player, certainly Mauanoa, Bain, Carson Beck will be in that mix. I think the running backs will have a say in that one. I would throw as a wild card. If you were going to go crazy about this one, Markel Bell. A lot of again. Things I'm saying.
That would be a huge testament to their development, even though, I mean, you want to talk about like God-given gifts to a player. Markel Bell is huge, was raw last year, made a couple of mistakes, and we talked about it on those shows that when he's solid, you don't notice it's the plight of the offensive lineman. If you make one mistake that may not even fully be on you, people are going to seize and wonder what's going on with your development. But is he in that conversation? Because if that's the case, if Markel Bell fulfills promise, we're talking about another guy that might be talked about, given his size, as a high NFL draft pick, like a first, second round type of guy with those measurables.
And people get so mad. Listen, Mauanoa is ahead of him right now. He's been better on film. He's a higher prospect right now.
But they're both starters.
And they're both starters. But when the fact that I even mentioned Markel Bell in that sense, we're like, oh, you're crazy. But what I would propose to those people to look at is Carson Beck is right-handed. Cam Ward is right-handed. Who lines up at left tackle?
Yep.
So, and these guys are multi-million-dollar quarterbacks at the college level. So, there's a lot of faith in Markel Bell. He is emerging a ton. He's a great worker. Mauanoa is a great worker. I think both of those guys, I think it's the best tackle duo in the country, period. So that's a good place to start when you're building a team. Just don't sleep on Lofton. Here's what my last thing on Lofton. We talk
I don't
about
think people are sleeping on Lofton. You're saying he's the best player on the team.
I and many others.
You're a
who
smoke
are
detector that goes off at 2 a.m. in the morning. I need to talk about Lofton.
I know you're right. I probably keep it quiet.
I think you could argue he's the best player on the team who's going to have the ball in his hands. That's a whole different argument.
Or he's blocking, and he's a fullback and lead blocker as well, so he doesn't have to have the ball in his hands. One thing I'll say, people say it was an undersized tight end. Why are you talking so much about an undersized tight end?
Beck's going to have the ball in his hands. You think he's?
As a skill guy, he could. I mean, I think he's the best. I think he's the best skill position player
Who can push
on
him?
the offense.
Lyle.
I'm Lyle.
Has Lyle? Have you seen steps taken? I know he won single digits, and that makes us look at running backs all with a whole new set of eyes.
McGahee comps with the number 2.
But Lyle, I mean, you want to talk about flashing his freshman season. Lyle has an explosiveness that we're going to miss. I already know that Chris Johnson's looking great at SMU, and they think they got a good one. And it's hard to disagree, given SMU's track record in recruiting Miami game breakers, and Miami struggled to get on the field. Lyle wasn't necessarily that case. I know there were a couple of weeks where we were wondering what's happening to his touches. But there were also like 3 weeks into the season, I was arguing that he's been Miami's most effective back. I really like Jordan Lyle, his breakaway speed, his ability to turn the corner and then pull away from those in the secondary. What have we seen from the body that is not just a single digit change on the jersey number? How is this guy progressing? Because I have really high hopes for him.
Looks great. It was also great in the Storm Sessions interview I did with him. I talked to his parents a couple days ago at practice. His dad, man, that guy looks like he could be our third running back himself. He's jacked and he's big, great shape. So, I mean, these are not small players we're talking about here. And again, great family, great, just everything you want on paper with Lyle, and on the field, you see he's a very complete type of guy. Don't forget about Mark Fletcher, right? We're talking about running
I was
backs.
gonna say that talk about someone who's overlooked. I think he's someone that's overlooked.
I guess what I'm doing with Fletcher, Pete, and that's fair to jump on that, is I kind of know what Fletcher's ceiling is going to be. He's never really flashed that pull away speed. He's going to be consistent. He's going to be a great locker room guy. He's going to wear teams down. He's going to make the rest of that room look better. When Fletcher got more touches, we started seeing a better Damian Martinez. He was spelling them. He was tenderizing that defense. Damian Martinez would come in, and then credit to him, he put in the work. He lost some weight, and he really improved his draft stock along the way. I have a pretty good idea of what Mark Fletcher is going to be. I would say the upside and the high-end potential, game-breaking guys that can just put the team on their back and make an individual spectacular play to help win you a game. I got to give a few more attribute points to Jordan Lyle in that department than what I'm doing with Mark Fletcher. No disrespect, because I love the kid. Tell me, do you agree? Disagree?
Different things. I mean, Fletcher's looked fast. This is his first real offseason. He's been banged up since he was a kid.
Yeah,
so
especially with injuries that affect that speed.
Right. He looks fast. He looks lean, still powerful, great pass blocker as well. Both of them are, but I think Fletcher probably just a little bit ahead just because he's a little stronger, bigger. So they're both studs. Some other names I should mention here, as far as we're talking about who's the best player, who could emerge as the best player on this team. Xavier Lucas, number 6 from Wisconsin, the transfer. You talk about first rounders. Who, if I had to bet on this guy, I feel confident will be a first round pick. I'd say Mauano would be my first bet on that front. My number 2 bet would be Lucas. 6'2", 200 pounds. He looks it. He's as fast as anybody. He's a 4.3 type of guy. He runs a 10.4.9 in the 100 meters. So I mean, talk about elite speed. And then seeing him every day in practice, he knows how to play. He's not just out there being an athlete. He knows how to play corner, very smart, good instincts. His change of direction is good enough given how big and fast he is. So to me, he's somebody that you could be looking at as, mock drafts, top 10 type player. Put him in there. OJ Frederic was a defending freshman first-team All-America over Xavier Lucas and over everybody else. So the Syracuse game was bad, but on the whole, when you grade the season, every national publication has him as probably the best freshman corner in the country. He's a hard worker. He's getting better and better. So put those 2 guys in the mix. So, I mean, for talking about 10 guys that I would say are in that top, the best player, people love list. I'm not going to put those there. Martin Dubé out in Botswana, still waiting for that lawsuit from Wisconsin for Lucas. Yeah, still waiting on that one. As you saw in our crack legal breakdown there, I had to put the lawyer hat on for a second. That's never happening. It was always BS. Anyways, 10 players I would put in the mix. I'm leaving anybody out. Beck, the 2 backs, Fletcher and Lyle. I would say Lofton, Mauanoa, Markel Bell, Ruben Bain, Xavier Lucas, OJ Frederic, and I would throw JoJo Trader potentially in that mix. CJ Daniels, one of those 2. Those would be the 10 guys I could see emerging when you say who are going to be the impact guys. As we sit here, it's April. Doesn't someone that we don't expect? Justin Scott, maybe?
Yeah, I was going to nitpick and say that's a very exciting list, but Miami's committed a lot of NIL and done really well recruiting on that defensive line. I would really love, just for my own sanity, to hear another name on that defensive line kind of flash. So it's not just on Ruben Bain. So it's not just on one person. I think a lot of people were upset with the secondary, but the defensive line was not getting home and putting them in good spots. Now, there was a lot going wrong there, but that pass rush was not what we were sold it was going to be. So that D-line needs to improve tremendously from where it was last year if this is going to be a CFP team.
Great point by Zechariah Poyser, the safety from Jacksonville State, freshman All-America himself. You could put him in that mix also. But with the guys you're talking about, it's funny you mentioned this because I was talking to somebody at practice today's Wednesday, yesterday, about we were just watching they rotate, but in this case, the second team defensive line, you had Blunt out there, you had Hayden Lowe out there, you had Lightfoot kind of rotating in with the 1s and the 2s, and you had Justin Scott. Those are all starting kind of caliber players. Those are guys you could all see with the 1s. But I was thinking, man, these are 4 or 5-star players right there on the D line, and they're all looking good. There's none of those 5 stars is their buyer remorse right now based on this spring. Talk about Blunt. Scott is really coming on.
Even Lightfoot, because last year, Lightfoot, I have to be honest, there were times that I was wondering, is it going to happen with this kid?
Lightfoot is on we talked about it earlier on the show or on the show earlier this week. I know you were out on the beach working on what you're working on,
Yeah,
but
triceps mostly.
Lightfoot is one of the stars to me of the spring because he's very explosive. He's very physical. The guy's he's a nasty football player. And a lot of people always ask, what's his weight? His weight's getting better. He's in the 230 range.
So we could read into that Pop-Tart Bowl altercation that you had. Like, that's actually like good fire.
He's got an edge.
Because it kind of seemed like, you're going at one. He was going at Barrow. Like,
but he's still here. I mean, Barrow was out anyways, but he's
like
still
Barrow
here.
was like one of the more effective guys on that D line. To hear that from Lightfoot, at that point I thought it was an indictment, but you're telling me no, that was actually a good encouraging sign in retrospect.
And Barrow weighs about 70 pounds more than him too. So if you wanted to do something about it, it takes a little bit of guts to kind of step to him like that.
Yeah.
So this is a guy who's from Chicago, very aggressive. He played kickoff this past year. He likes contact. So he's 230. He's getting bigger. Pete, you get grief for always talking about this, but look, he's never going to be that 260-pound defensive end.
But then people are like, "Oh, we should move him to linebacker." No, I don't want to see him playing in space covering guys necessarily. Yes, you can drop him in coverage
for that.
Yeah.
That's right.
But no, you can be there's guys who are 240-pound pass rushers and that's all they do in the NFL. 240, 245.
Mike Green from Marshall, I'm seeing mock drafts of him going in the top 10 from the Marshall guy, and he's had like some off the field stuff, and he's 240 pounds, and I don't think he's even as athletic as a Lightfoot, but he's being put in that category. So yes, there's going to be a role for Lightfoot, but I think this spring he's done. You'll see in the game on Saturday, he's done a lot of positive things. He is trending to play a lot.
Okay,
and he is going in the right direction athletically. The way he competes, his motor's always been very good. So, some guys take a little bit to just develop. It's a second-year player. Now we're talking about a fifth-year player.
No. What concerned me the most was just the frame. But, I mean, 230, it's a lot bigger than I am right now. And it didn't seem 230 was like a possible number when I saw him last spring. So, kudos to him. Usually in spring football, defenses are further along than offenses. However, we have continuity on the offensive side of the ball. Now, we don't have QB1 out there, so that might explain this. But Miami's installing a whole new defense, new DC. On the staff, there isn't the same kind of continuity. If there's ever a spring where the offense can kind of bridge that gap that you usually see between both sides in the spring, even without a QB1, it would be this situation here. What's the deal? Who's further ahead?
Great question. I think it's back and forth. You just don't know what you're going to get. I think initially the defense was new. So there's communication that they're trying to work through. It's a very simple defense. It's a front where it's really the opposite of what you have with Guidry, which, we talked to, let's say, NFL sources where people on that side who have nothing to do with UM are questioning what Guidry was doing. Not just, these are not UM fans. These are people just watching UM and saying, what the heck are these guys doing on the front? So it's a lot simpler than what Guidry did as far as where people are aligned. But the technique is very specific, and you got to communicate quite a bit. So the communication was not there early on, as with the first couple of days of spring. You're not out there playing Notre Dame the next day. So working through that system, I think initially the offense started getting some punches in, but defense, once they got the communication a little tighter, got more comfortable in the defense, and they got a lot of 5-stars on that side, started punching back. But then at the same time, you have young players on offense like Nickel, like Josh Moore, like Upshaw, on top of some of the veterans and the great offensive line. They punch back too, and they started getting more comfortable. So it's been back and forth. I wouldn't say, and we said on the show last year, the offense is better than the defense. It was pretty clear just once Cam Ward got settled in that the offense was on a higher level because of the players they had and Cam Ward. And I can't call it yet who's better. And I think when Beck comes back, obviously that's going to be a huge boost to the offense, but I think the defense is going to keep getting better and better. And there's 4 or 5-star players on that defensive line, not including a Ruben Bain or Mesidor, guys like that, who are going to play quite a bit. Plus, I said, potentially 2 first-round corners with Frederic and Lucas. Certainly, great young players. We'll see how their careers develop, and a freshman All-America safety. So it's going to be back and forth, man. I think it's going to be a lot closer between the offense and the defense this year than it was last year, where there was just a chasm between the two.
You went chasm instead of chasm.
Yeah, what is a chasm? Did I make that word up?
No. I think it
Did I
might
just
be
pronounce it wrong?
No. I think it could be an either or situation, but I always went chasm. It could be a tomato type
No,
of
it's
deal.
pronounced wrong. You had it right. I
Chasm.
pronounced it wrong.
Yeah. Well,
Chasm.
yeah. Don't be too hard on yourself. I was just curious because it's very likely that I was getting it wrong there.
No,
too.
no. I gotta say, this is part of being a Miami, someone who grew up in Miami. I've noticed this. I used to read a lot, most like sports magazines. So I knew a lot of words. I never actually heard them said in life. So I went to I went to the college up north, and I'm out here saying these words. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
and I spell them, and they're like, no, that's not right. So
that actually I run into that often with Dan Levitard on our show,
where
he just knows words from reading them. He'll say like panache instead of panache, and you're like, what exactly are you trying to say? What about my man that last year that flipped from Louisville? I forget his name. Big white guy, pass rusher.
He's banged up.
He's banged up.
He's
so
banged
we haven't
up.
really seen him.
No, he'll be in the mix though.
I know you were like really high on him. It looked like he was starting to get some reps, like in some of the blowout games. What's his name, man?
Cole McConaughey. He's banged up. He'll be okay. But look, when the spring guys are banged up, you'll see when you see the spring game, there'll be a lot of guys not playing. It's not like anything to freak out about. That is every single spring ever, because you don't want to push it during spring. But look, Hayden Lowe has gotten a lot of reps in his absence. Armando Blunt's got a lot of reps in his absence. Those are two guys that I think are going to factor very heavily into this defense. And I think Cole will as well once he comes back and is full go. But yeah, man, Cole McConaughey, he's probably just trying to add weight, enjoy some of the finest Cuban food in America. By the way, Louisville, where he was committed.
Great Cuban food.
Great Cuban. They got a lot of Cubans up there.
I mean, yeah, it's like top 5 in the nation when it comes to Cuban food.
And like Cubans in general, right? I think they got the second biggest population outside of Florida.
I went to a Cuban restaurant when I was up there for the Golden Canes trip.
How was it?
It was good. It was interesting though. It was post-communism. So like when you ordered a ropa vieja, it would come like they would put a can on top of your plate.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was like, I don't know. It kind of gave me a little like Castro PTSD a little bit, because it was like it's on the Cuban that I grew up around.
Yeah, not known for their food, communist countries.
Yeah. Like
the dining experience.
Yeah, like it was high end. It was good, but like their whole take on it was like, this may not be the Cuba that your parents talked to you about. This is the one that this is the one that they fled, not the one that they fondly remember.
Well, if you want the one they fondly remember, there's only one place to go, and that is East Las Canarias. 40 plus years here in Miami, the #1 Cuban restaurant on the planet, now available in the Dayland Mall Dining Pavilion, centrally located. You get there on the metro. You're passing by it most likely at some point during your week. Yeah,
crush that wrap right now.
Just grab it on the go. That one's a little more new style, right? You didn't get that back in the 50s, but it's the same ingredients you got in the 50s. Just grab it and go for folks that are on the train, on the move. And then, of course, all the classic items, coffees, desserts, you name it.
Not sure they had the sweet chili aioli in the 50s.
Or the my boy Johnny Lagoon's favorite, the kimchi croqueta.
Communism would have never risen to power.
Yeah, they got the Gatorade as well. So
the Chronics are here. I miss these guys. Ghost of Navon Donaldson, Johnny Lagoon, sports.
Chronics. Oh, I like that.
Chronics. These are the loyalists. These are the regulars. I appreciate them. My weeks were empty without them. My basketball season was pretty empty without a good basketball team. That was terrible basketball that we watched all season long. I'm excited about what Jay Lucas is doing. I've spoken to some people, and they're theorizing Miami might already have the best point guard in the ACC with some of the work that's happening in the transfer portal. This is a roster that is going to be completely filled out with signings via portal and conventional recruitment. Where do we stand right now? Because last I checked, we still got roughly a dozen holes we need to fill on this team. That's a lot of work. Rome wasn't built in a day, but we're off to a pretty encouraging start here, Peter Ruiz.
Yeah, and it looks like the next addition could be True Washington from New Mexico. So he started for them at shooting guard this year, 6'4", 195, 11 points a game, 4 rebounds per game, 2 assists, and 2.1 steals per game. So defensively, the numbers on him were really, really good. A guy, just watching his stuff here, who played for Richard Pitino, who's on the way to Xavier, obviously, but a guy who can get to the basket. Not a great shooter, 33% from 3, but defensively, and then just, again, can get to the cup. And this team did not have enough players who could just get to the basket
They
and
were so afraid
get a
to
layup.
attack.
Right. They couldn't play through any sort of contact. Lefty, really good passer. I don't think the assist numbers two per game really match. Like just watching, I've seen his ability as a passer. And like, again, something that was just lacking this year was just pure court vision. Not enough guys could see the floor. And again, we talked about how there weren't enough guys who could create for others, right? So potentially add him to the mix with a Trey Donaldson. You get a couple experienced guards. He's going to be a junior coming in here, originally from Phoenix. Now that one's obviously not official yet, but Crystal Ball is coming in there. I think that would be again a very nice addition, and just someone who doesn't need the ball in his hands necessarily, right? And I know you guys haven't watched his stuff, but like he can handle the ball a little bit, right? You have Dante Allen coming in for a visit, I believe next weekend. You have Harun Zedno, the Bosnian Bulldog, also
Big fan
coming
of the
in
Bosnian Bulldog
for a visit. We mentioned the other day, D, on Monday, Marcus Allen from Missouri. Keep an eye on him as a potential wing addition. Really high upside defensively. So I think, Mike, to answer your question, it's kind of like that portion of NBA free agency, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you either have your guys or you sign your main one or two pieces. That's exactly what they did with Trey Donaldson, with Ernest Uday and Malik Renau. And now you're trying to fill in those pieces around it that can actually play together as a team, right?
Now, I know that Coach Lucas has had this deal has been in the works for quite some time. He's had multiple months here to really have a vision, really not fully knowing who might be available in the transfer portal just yet, but with an inkling maybe. One thing that feels night and day different is the very clear impression that there is a defined plan when it comes to talent acquisition beyond just the conventional high school recruiting, where Larrañaga didn't do a bad job with that. He signed a pretty good class last time. But when it came to talent acquisition in the portal specifically, from when I try to get involved in that, it seemed pretty messy and no real direction. Jim had his feelings about certain players. He made that known.
How's your guy doing, by the way?
My guy, I mean, the guy that I wanted over here? Fell short in the Crown tournament over there. Fight on. But what I would say is that dealing and trying to poke around like Miami's operations side in the off season, they didn't. By this time last year, they didn't really seem to get going.
Well, and Mike,
it took them several weeks after the championship to really get going, and that is not the case over here. My own opinions notwithstanding, I'm just saying, like, the impression that I'm getting from the people that are supposed to be doing the work, there seems to be a very clearly defined plan that was lacking in the last few years. That's just my feeling on the situation.
Well, and remember, I think what you said is true. There wasn't necessarily the same sense of urgency, but you see what they ended up getting in terms of the schools these guys are going. And look at the schools that Miami is taking from this year. You have a TCU, an Ernest Uday, who was one of the top rebounders in the Big 12. You have an Indiana. You have a Michigan, and guys who played big roles. And then now you go get a true Washington coming from a really good New Mexico team that won a game in the tournament as their third leading scorer. So you're getting guys who have actually done something at, put up. It's one thing to put up numbers, but played on winning teams too,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a huge part of building culture. Look at this comment here, real quick, from Juan Manuel V. He said, "Hey, D Money, Pete, and Ryan, let's talk about tampering. Even I tamper with the neighbors' mangoes when they're not home."
I love how he very clearly had emojis for tampering.
Yeah, he did. He did.
That's hard to convey via emoji, but Juan Manuel was going to try anyways. And it kind of clicks.
I think got it.
Yeah.
But no, man, just on basketball, I see there's been some comments about RJ Lewis, St. John's.
Yeah,
that's not happening.
Okay.
That's not happening. He's going to try to go to the NBA, but I just don't. That's not something that's on the table.
And he's burned bridges and stuff with other people.
Yeah.
I mean, you see
we see kind of listen. Hope the best for him moving forward, but you see it hasn't been the cleanest thing here with him and Patino either. So
yeah, and Patino's been in this game for a while. I'm energized by the plan, and I know you mentioned like, how's my guy doing? I could be petty and counter that by, well, how did their guys do?
Not good.
But what I would say is that they had they have a very clear plan now. There's
Well,
a direction, and that was absent, in my opinion, last couple seasons.
26 says kid committed in March last year. Problem wasn't urgency on that one, just a terrible eval. I'm gonna push back on that a little bit. Lynn Kidd with the right pieces around him, I would have taken as Miami's center. Like, yeah, was it always pretty? No, it wasn't. But like, he could play a role if he had Norchad O'Meara next to him as a 4 last year. I think that would have looked a whole lot different.
Yeah.
The pieces around him just did not work.
No, it's
but-
like, and Coach Larrañaga is like, I mean, steadfast loyalty to Matt Cleveland and really prioritizing him.
He was their best player this year.
Yeah. If you're the best player on the worst Miami men's basketball team of all time, when you want to hang it up in the rafters.
Bottom line, there wasn't enough winning basketball being played. And I think that's what he's trying to do is you're adding guys who have proven to be winning pieces of good programs. And look,
no disrespect to Matt Cleveland, who once put the U upside down.
Well, real quick on Kidd. So with 26's comment, I think, and you got to this too. The evaluation of the player, I think, was fine. The guy, he did come in and score efficiently as far as field goal percentage. He's a good free throw shooter for a big guy. He passed pretty good. I think he had a career high in assist here. The problem is when you put the pieces together, you say, all right,
no shooters around him.
You got Jalen Blackman, who's a scorer and can't play defense as a guard and is just physically slight. Nigel Pack, great scorer, not a distributor, also not going to be your best defensive player on the perimeter.
It wasn't with the team pretty much for more than half.
Totally checked out, just trying to get another year of eligibility so he can continue his grift. If I may, and goes to Navon Donaldson, I appreciate the quote. Larrañaga's social media shtick is wearing on me. Been there, pal. Because you guys keep mentioning these guys were good players, and then they come to Miami, and then they stop being good players. Why? Development. Something happened over the last 2 years where we just stopped developing guys. And more to that point, Bensley Joseph leaves, becomes Providence's best player. Wooga Poplar actually redeemed some of that draft stock that he lost last year because he goes to another staff, and that other staff could develop him. I go to the games at the Watsco, and I see 5 guys standing around the perimeter with no guys cutting. How is anybody supposed to get better? What is our identity?
Christianville makes a good point too, and we, as you know, we're kind of going on.
Thank
the
you for
players.
cutting me off.
He says,
"Thank you, Coach L. You deserve a statue."
Add timeout. Add that the coach quit after 2 weeks to all the equations. So I mean, it wasn't. That's what I was saying. Like it wasn't a great situation for anyone involved. This year.
Put it on paper. So if you're just putting it on paper, you say, okay, how's this going to work? Nigel Pack individually is a very good player. I mean, we know that he went to the Final Four as a key cog in the machine.
It's also the rare occasion where a player's gotten worse every year he's been in college.
He just has limitations to his game that did not fit with Miami's roster this last.
We asked him to do stuff he's not good at. He got injured. There's a lot to it.
Thank you forever for that Drake performance.
But let's just say the guy's a very good player. Let's just put it in a vacuum. Now we're not talking about a team. Jalen Blackman was in the tournament as a 20-point scorer. So
top 15 scorer in the country.
So obviously he was a very good player for what he did. Jaleel Bethea was a top 10 prospect.
You're making my argument for me.
You put balance development necessarily. Say,
what do you mean?
You put in the
Nigel Pack was first team All Big 12, and he had a great season his first year in Miami. He got worse and worse, and I understand there's injuries.
He went to a Final Four. That was pretty good. That happened here. But then Lynn Kidd also a very good.
But every year downward trajectory.
I think the problem with
why are we protecting
Pack,
Coach L? He's a
legend.
legend.
Objective is the problem with I'm criticizing Coach L. But what I'm saying is the problem with Pack was not Pack the player. It was Pack having to be the point guard. Pack having to do things he's not supposed to do. So you have 3 scoring guards that are not passers and are not perimeter defenders. And we talked about this at the time, Pete. We didn't think it'd be a disaster like it was with Larrañaga, quitting in the middle of the year. But we raised this concern early before the season with Chaney. You have 3 guards that score, do not pass, do not defend. And then you have a center who is not a rim protector, not a rebounder, not a screener. He is a scorer and a finisher. So if you put that on paper, it does not make sense because Kidd is not going to make those guys' lives easier by protecting the basket. And those guys are not going to make Kidd's life easier by passing him the ball. So the whole thing didn't make sense on paper.
No, it was a failure on multiple fronts.
But bring it to this kid from New Mexico, and I have not seen him. We're watching after we've done the show. This kind of all started going on the ride over here. But I know you've watched him, Pete. They say the defensive metrics are the best in the conference.
Gets downhill. I mean, it's one of those things where the percentages, he was 28% from 3 his first year, 33% last year. So you get him in that mid to high 30s. It's, a little bit more manageable, but you still, my main thing right now with the way the roster is building on it, you still need shooters, because two of the three guys signed right now are not shooters.
Right.
You need shooters. That's the biggest. We talk about potential. There's still a lot of guys to be added to the roster, D, but
even the Bulldog.
I would love for the Bosnian Bulldog.
That would help address the shooting.
That would help. But Renau and Ude playing together, those guys. Renau can play from the wing, I think, and take it off the dribble from there. But not a shooter at this point.
And I don't want to sound alarms. True Washington shot about 4 threes a game, so he's putting them up. So he's a pretty good shooter. He's making 1.2 a game, so he can make threes. But 33%, and I wouldn't ordinarily be that concerned about the percentage when he's high volume, but then the free throw percentage is 63%, 68% last year. That's a little bit scary from a pure shooter perspective.
The good news is that I was seeing more than half of his shots are at the rim, are basically going to the cup. So he's a guy who gets downhill.
James Kane points out, soon as Wong left, the team crumbled. I think you could lump Jordan Miller into that, because Jordan Miller did a lot of things that opened things up for the rest of the team. He's obviously in the NBA right now as a 3-and-D guy. He was a very versatile defender, a guy that could guard the 4 and allow Miami to really open things up. But I will say they followed that Final Four run, and they lost those 2 guys. ACC Player of the Year. Zay Wong's going to have his jersey honored in the rafters, no doubt. But they added Matt Cleveland, which was a huge get for Jim Larinaga, a guy that killed Miami when he was at FSU.
They beat out Auburn, by the way, in that recruitment.
And they brought, correct me if I'm wrong, they also added a first-round NBA talent, Keyshawn George, who I watched an entire season full of basketball. Entering the season, it was fair to argue, all right? Now, the results certainly did not bear this out. But entering that season, post-Final Four run, you could argue that was the most Miami men's basketball team we ever had. That was the most talented team we had ever fielded for men's basketball.
I still think the Bruce Brown and Lonnie Walker team, when you have 2 guys who you knew were going to be NBA players and potential lottery picks at the time, both of them.
Well, we were pretty sure Wooga was going to make it to the league at that point. We're doing some revisionist history.
Hold on, we're talking about NBA. Like Keyshawn George is counting as for that.
I'm saying we did pretty well by Coach L in that we lost Zay Wong and Jordan Miller, 2 guys. Zay's kind of bounced back and forth. He's got some physical limitations.
But
we
added
Keyshawn George. And we added Matt Cleveland. We had big, talented bodies to a nucleus. We had Pac. We had Omir. We had Zay Wong. We had I'm sorry, not Zay Wong. We had Wooga Poplar. We had Bensley Joseph. We were a really talented team. I think.
No, it was.
Right.
It was.
That was one of the deeper, more talented teams in Miami history. And it was a wet fart of a season. Keyshawn George still somehow went in the first round just because of measurables. But
I wouldn't say deep. To say it was deep, though, I don't. We didn't have. We were not more than 6-7 deep that you could trust. And that's been the biggest bottom line issue, is that you have not been able to bring in big men outside of Omir, who was 6'6".
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so. Here you go. The Walker Brown team had more NBA players than any team we've had. Yeah, NBA wise, I guess it's different. To me, the most talented team was the 2013 team, which I thought was the best team because it had, 9 guys that could play, 10 guys that could play, but none of those guys.
That team was really a 5 seed. That's a forgotten team because they lost. Yeah, it's a forgotten team because they lost. And I think Brown and Walker only really played together for like a month in that season.
Yeah,
they were both injured at different times, and you were thinking, man, these guys can get it going here as a 5 seed.
That was going to be a Final Four team, man.
I think it would have had a chance, but yes.
I mean, the team that we lost to ended up going to the Final Four.
Yeah. And look,
Brujeria from Sister Jean.
Some of the comments here, though, have been exactly right based on what we've added so far. 26 has got to have a guard that can handle the ball and get you a bucket. Trey Donaldson is that, and defensively, all these guys can play defense and are willing defenders.
Pete, let me throw a comp on Trey Donaldson, having watched him, and I'm not saying there's a comp as far as like he is this good. He's not this good. He's not going to get drafted like this. He might not get drafted at all. But I'm just saying, in terms of like the DNA, the type of player he is, I see some Jalen Suggs in just football player, tough physical guard. He likes contact. He does not avoid contact when it's come to finishing or driving.
Even the athleticism, though, Suggs might not
Suggs
even
be a top 5 pick, so it's not going to be that. But I'm just saying, meant like the type of he's cut from that cloth with less talent. Is that
Yeah,
fair
I
to
could
say?
see it.
Better
I could see it.
hairline though.
It's definitely
You
better.
can't.
hairline.
I mean, Suggs just does not inspire confidence with that hairline. You got to be really freaking good.
And he was, and he is.
Well, it's like Trae Young. Like if we're gonna keep rolling this thing out here, I'm gonna need something back.
Trae Young looks like a composer, man. He's got the weirdest hair.
Masai Rain says, "Is he better than Angel Rodriguez?" Angel was a dog. He was a conductor. He was a shot maker. But the size, I think, obviously Trae's a few inches bigger than him, and just Angel was strong now. Like he wasn't going to get pushed off the ball, and he was a pretty tenacious defender. I got to see more of Donaldson before I make that judgment. Angel was really good, man. Angel was really good, and point guard for a Sweet 16 team.
What do we know about Jay Lucas? You can usually read into a guy being a good recruiter with his ability to reach kids. Look, Coach L had more success with less talented players. Like Charlie Moore came in, he was a journeyman, and Charlie Moore did everything that you were used to seeing with a Coach L team, which had been missing over the last 2 years. Active hands, being able to turn teams over at half court. Charlie Moore was the embodiment of that. And it seemed like we had a coach that either didn't want to or just really struggled with trying to get his style of play. I don't think that Coach Larrañaga either forgot how to be a coach or forgot how to communicate. I just think he struggled with both after that Final Four run. He had a special group beforehand, caught lightning in a bottle, and then the type of player that he was trying to reach probably changed. Sometimes it can happen that quick, I guess. Can Jay Lucas be the type of coach that doesn't have guys check out on him? That doesn't have what Keyshawn George did to Coach Larrañaga, which is I'm jacking this up regardless. If it comes to me, I'm a vacuum. We're not going to get better over here. I'm looking out for me.
I mean, I think that's part of the reason behind hiring him is you think that he can connect to these guys because of the age. And it's not just like the personality, but the relentlessness of what he's doing. I mean, I'm sure you've heard similar, but everyone that I talk to says every time they see him, he's on the phone like a madman
at 3:45 a.m. with the sun out.
Yeah. So,
Manu LeCompte reference.
Baylor, great, man.
This threw me. So I remember when we got him, we thought he was going to be like a Tony Parker. That was the buzz.
The Belgian,
this
man.
guy was
He
like the
could shoot.
fastest.
He was good at Baylor too. He ended up becoming a really good player at Baylor.
Yeah, he was. I'd look at the stats.
War number 20.
Angel was also 30. Made me laugh.
And Denise Clemente. We've had a lot of those guys that are just like
Calusa.
the next
Clemente,
Tony Parkers.
yeah, Calusa, great, man.
The next Tony Parkers. Those guys.
Yeah, he ended up going to Kansas State.
Yeah,
played for Frank Martin over there.
Yeah,
but look, clearly, I think big picture, what you're seeing here with Jay Lucas, to me, Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, a commitment to defense and a commitment to being local. We were in the press conference. He said we're going to play defense and we're going to be a South Florida dominant
and
operation.
Get bigger too. I mean, it's almost what you're seeing on football with what Mario has done. Is said, look, we're going to get the trenches better. We have to figure other stuff out after that. But if your trenches are right, your baseline is going to be good, right? Your floor is going to be a lot higher than what it would be if you have flashy, nice toys, and you don't have the guys up front to support that. So I think obviously a little bit different in basketball, but the foundation is being built, and it's nice to see a vision coming together here. So we'll keep you updated.
It's been a rough week with Florida winning the national title, but I would say Florida is a pretty good example now. The cupboard wasn't as bare for Florida, but I think for their starters, they came via portal. Like you can. They are a good team.
I believe I saw they're the first team in modern history to not have to win a championship without a top 100 recruit in their starting lineup, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these guys were really good evaluations, transfers. Clayton was from where? Iona, right? So really, really good evaluation from that staff. And yeah, I agree. It sucked, but I got to give him credit. But give him credit and almost give hope in a way to say, man, like where they were coming from, it wasn't as bad as where Miami's at right now. I could
give him more than just credit. I could absolutely revolt this Canes Inside audience right now with really hot Florida basketball takes.
Give us.
I think that justifiably the back-to-back national champions team of Noah, Brewer, and Horford, that's going to be looked at. It was a different time in basketball. It was really rare even back then for guys to run it back, especially without NIL. Guys were jumping the league back then. So they're not even going to be looked at as fondly within their own program's history. If they never won the previous two titles, so you can't use that as a counter argument, you can make a solid argument that this is the greatest college basketball team of all time. You could. You could. I'm not talking about the pro names because they don't have it, but I'm talking about the run that they went on, being the top team.
They weren't I'm sorry, they weren't dominant enough in the tournament. They needed to have to in the tournament when they had to come back multiple times. I'm sorry. I don't want to be a hater here, but the UConn teams that just went on these other runs were better college basketball teams than this Florida team.
I saw the Florida team up close.
Yeah.
I was at Florida when that happened.
Did I deliver and pissing you guys
Listen,
off or
yeah,
what?
you did, because like I've kind of gotten over it the last
5-0 in
24 hours, but that's ridiculous. No,
5-0
that's ridiculous.
in the last month against top 11 AP teams.
So you can call it I think any team that wins a championship has a great run, but
they couldn't have been more #1 seeds on their way to a championship if they tried.
Like that Florida team, which was again a back-to-back champion, which is absurd to do that in a 64 team
toughest conference in the history of basketball.
Mike, the tournament,
regular season champ,
back to back. Forget the conference.
Regular season champ, postseason success.
So you're saying we can't even count you're saying of all time or in this era?
If you stack up the murderer's row that they went up against, you may want to pick apart best and certainly cherry pick teams with a lot more NBA players, because that team is not this team is not that. This team is not even that in program history. I concede that. But if you want to talk resume,
your tan's gone, Christian says.
Like no longer has a great tan.
If you want to talk about road that they went through with the toughest conference and certainly our adult lives.
Road, how hard their road was a different conversation than best team of all time.
Well, you look at it and it's their accomplishments, my man. If they were top of the heap in the toughest conference in our adult lives in college basketball. And
wait, hold on. First of all, let's stop for a second. Any discussion about college basketball, these teams would not even be on the same planet as any team that was before this one and done early era. You had Jordan as a junior in college. So I didn't want to hear about any of these teams. Like, we're talking about in the last 10 years. Fine.
That's why I invoked adult lives.
You're talking about Akeem Olajuwon and Patrick Ewing,
like as upperclassmen. Give me that Kentucky Anthony Davis team over there. So that was a dominant.
But
they didn't win.
Any team from
they won the whole thing. We're talking about Anthony Davis.
Just real quick,
the other Kentucky team.
Any team from the 80s and 90s destroys all these teams because the players that were NBA players stayed longer. So the fact that we're even talking about history, all those teams would beat these teams by like 30 because they're all adults that were NBA players. Jordan was a junior. Yeah. Can you imagine going against a junior Michael Jordan? You don't even go against a junior Keyshawn George.
I got you guys shook, and my point was a pretty good one if you're invoking Michael Jordan.
I'm just saying.
If you have to go to the Jordan argument, then I guess I told you I was going to push some buttons, and I most certainly did.
I'm just saying their
resume in the tournament is as good as it can get. Their resume against that conference is as good as it can get. Look, I don't like it either, but it's time that we give them their flowers. That is one of the more impressive basketball teams of our lives. In fact, the last 3 years, in a rarity, in a sport that is usually pretty random when it comes to naming their national champion, I think for the last three consecutive years, there has been zero doubt in my mind who the best team in America is. Florida, with those lofty expectations, didn't choke it away like Duke did. They don't have a Cooper flag on their team. They don't have that. It's an incredible job that staff did in navigating its own controversy. They made their own bed there. I understand that. But this is as impressive a resume for a title-winning team as you could argue. When you look at the teams that they went through, even when they struggled, the coming back from astronomical win probability deficits, this team had something special to it. I'm saying we should give them their flowers. And you can certainly disagree with it being the greatest college basketball team of your life. I'll even capitulate on that argument. But I'm saying in terms of accomplishments and resume and what they did on the path to the championship, as impressed as I've ever been.
I would say their coach gives a lot of people flowers because he's allegedly a sexual harasser and stalker. If you read the papers,
so he was cleared on an
he's handing out a lot of flowers. But as far as the team, Mike, again, we talk about just the Gators alone. I saw that team with Noah and Horford. They were bringing up the ball. They were the point guards of the team. They were centers.
Yeah,
they were the best passers in that entire run as 7-footers, 6'10"ers.
I think they probably beat the crap out of Florida's basketball team today.
Oh, it'd be
if we had Horford and Noah run it and Brewer run it back today, I'd still take that 07 Gators team over this.
Oh, yeah, right now. Yeah,
right now. I think if we line it up, that Gators team was, look, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but the resume is pretty irrefutable. And that conference and the dominance and the hype machine certainly behind it was nonstop. And they navigated it from bell to bell.
Yeah, I would say college basketball, this is an interesting discussion, but just big picture. I think college basketball and college baseball are going in different directions, and that I think college baseball teams now would smoke the college baseball teams from the past because they have pros, first rounders that stay longer.
Mm-hmm.
College basketball is the opposite. You have guys that, like, I mean, again, Keyshawn George was one and done.
Mm-hmm.
Hakeem Olajuwon was not one and done. So
Yeah.
the idea that these teams are comparable is just, it's a different era. You're talking about NBA caliber grown men versus not NBA caliber kids, and then transfers from D3 schools. So I just don't think it's the same. College football is a little like that too. People always compare, I've made this rant before, like the LSU Tigers with Joe Burrow to the 2001 Canes. Ed Reed was 24 on that team. Derek Stingley, who was 18 and is not Ed Reed, was the best player on that LSU Tigers defense. Sean Taylor, who did not play on the Canes, would have been the best player on that defense. Antro Roll probably would have been the best player on that defense. Guys that didn't even play. Vince Wilfork, freshman. So I think when we talk about these historical discussions, you have to keep in mind that the sport is not static. It changes. It goes in different directions. College baseball going in a better direction where guys are balling in the tournament and in the World Series, and then going like to the pros the next year, like Cam Smith for FSU. That has not happened historically in college baseball, where you just like go right from the College World Series, take a cup of coffee in the minors, and then you're on the opening day roster the next year. So college baseball, these teams, you tell me that, Tennessee last year could beat some of these teams. I'm with you. I talk about college baseball. College basketball, it's a fun product, but these teams suck compared to what we're talking about in the past, if we're being honest.
The Honey Badger here says those Villanova teams also were better than the Florida teams. 100%. Those were great runs.
How about UNC when they had, I'm talking about just modern-ish
We're talking about different things.
Raymond Felton, Sean May. Those teams I think were probably the better, just in terms of this current era.
I was Ty Lawson, right?
I got to dig into who.
Oh, sorry, you're right.
Ty Lawson. I got to dig into who Villanova went through, not just in the tournament, but also in the regular season. There was a gauntlet. Florida, when they got into their conference schedule, was playing a really good team every night. And I know Villanova came from a good basketball conference, but I don't think they got tested in the ways that this Florida team did. And I would say, moreover, bad news for the rest of the state, because this wasn't an uber talented team in the eyes of NBA. I know players may have played themselves into mid-first round draft position there, but now you have proof of concept over there. That Florida machine is going to be humming, and regrettably, they're a blue blood in that sport. It's a very elite class. Villanova, UConn has 6 titles in our lifetime, but Tar Heels in our lifetime, 3 championships, I think. The Gators with their 3 titles are in that class. Kentucky, Duke, Kansas, they're blue bloods.
Yeah. And also, it's going to be hard to get that coach. A lot of times the coach, like for example, that Gator team we talked about, they had Billy Donovan as their coach, right?
Yep.
So he went to the NBA. I think it'll be harder to get this coach to the NBA because of his dating habits and his stalking habits is harder in a big city than in a small town. So I think that would be difficult. Shout out to Amon Richards. Appreciate you. See you on Saturday.
Pete, what do you think?
Still the best freshman receiver in Miami Hurricanes history.
No doubt. Pete, what do you think? If we got the 07 Gators right now, their present age, and we said, hey, let's run it back one more time, and we lined them up against this year's reigning national champion Florida Gators, who wins that game?
Wait, like right now? Like their current
they play
shape?
right now. Horford's still in the league,
dude.
man.
I just saw Joakim Noah at Keg South a couple months ago. I think I got this current team.
Really? I mean, I think he has Condon.
I saw might have a step or two on him these days.
We just need him to be inside and rebound. And his
I got Lee Humphreys will knock down some shots on the outside.
He was great.
Though.
I was going to say that Torian Green was in some trouble, but the guy's still coaching. I didn't realize it. I thought he got kicked off for being accused.
Let's play till 21 then. Who's winning?
So hold on. So Florida has 2 coaches accused of sexual assault. Coaches, not even the players. They have 2 coaches accused of sexual assault on their team for this run, this magical feel-good run. I mean, coaches?
I don't understand the question from the Honey Badger. How are the Gators a blue blood, Mike? Explain, please. Make it more than national titles, please. I can't make it more than national titles. It's usually a pretty good barometer.
If you got to ask the question, then you just aren't. Then you just aren't one.
Yeah, but I'm glad I got to get you guys to take the bait. No doubt. That was fun. Got the blood boiling a little bit. I didn't even believe this. I was saying.
We need to get through. We need to transition to wrestling.
Yeah, I got a wrestler of the week.
Well, speaking of which, by the way, while we were talking about sports, that the path, I think the path in the wrestling side, I was thinking of some Royal Rumbles, like Ric Flair, what he had to go through to get to that's
kind of
the
what
tear
Florida
in
did.
The eye in 19. No, is not what that.
Come on, give him credit. I know in 1992, Larry Johnson was probably
what Jey Uso went through was probably more comparable. Although there's some talent more. It's probably in the middle here. WWE, I think talent is better than it was in 2010.
I don't know. Jey Uso wrestles like
1990.
Jey Uso wrestles like an early 90s guy. He's got the physique and moveset of an early 90s wrestler, no doubt.
I don't know about the physique. Those guys were jacked.
That's true. He doesn't even have, I don't know what he has. He's got the marketing machine of the modern era behind him.
He was put on the island of relevancy by Roman Reigns, and then he took it. And now he's selling out stadiums.
He's got a good gimmick.
I mean, talking about France and other countries, the whole arena's doing the thing.
It's like, what would be like the comp for him? Because
like Al Snow,
Macho Man would have like Macho Man had like some really good matches, but consistency in the ring wasn't like his strong suit. Macho Man was like really a character and entertainer.
Whoa,
is that what Jey Uso has?
Hold on, Speedo Macho Man was good in the ring every time.
Ricky Steamboat, no doubt.
No, the whole era he got a little big and injury prone, and got out of the Speedo.
Great rivalry with DDP and WCW.
This your favorite era is the decline of WCW.
Yeah,
I hope you're enjoying this 20-year decline of the Canes as much as you enjoyed the decline of WCW.
There are a few bright spots, like the Macho. What was the Macho Man DDP rivalry? I guess it was Daryl Langham. Those were my bright spots there. But I think Macho Man is not a bad comp for like what Jey Uso brings to the table. I guess in terms of
Macho.
Yeah, older Macho in terms of just being a big character that kids like. And maybe I'm just doing like the flashy, bright color. If you can tell, I'm not really a Jey Uso guy, even though I am a Macho Man guy.
Best actor I think there's ever been in years in wrestling, Jey Uso. Like when that was the no crowd era, he was thriving because he was like a thespian.
Those Uso penitentiary promos, that's when you started to see it. But I don't know. Like I'm just end this already. Let's have the title celebration.
There's like 17 yeets in the chat, by the way, when we started. So if you're wondering how over this guy is,
I'm very team no yeet right now. Just get this over with. Have Lee Fitting get his aerial shot in the Raiders Stadium, and let's move on. Have him drop the title 2 months later. Let's just keep it going.
How great was it, by the way, where he's talking about his brother being brutally beaten in front of him. He's handcuffed to the ring. He's seeing his brother bloodied, and he's talking to his mom about his bloody brother and his failure to defend his twin. And the crowd's just like, yeet, yeet, yeet.
It's a ridiculous thing. My least favorite wrestling match of all time was Jimmy Uso versus Jey Uso.
Yeah, that wasn't that good. But the year before was great. The tag.
Yeah, the tag. No, it's weird. Those guys collectively, always bangers. Great tag team. You can have them in the discussion as greatest tag team ever. And when you stack up their matches and you add the bloodline stuff to it. Individually, they're bad wrestlers. What's happened?
I haven't seen one person do good super kicks besides Shawn Michaels. It should have been retired with Shawn Michaels.
Young Bucks kill it.
They do the same thing as the Usos, overplay it. It's just like a joke. It's like a gimmicky thing. Shawn Michaels, you believed it. It gave him a chance to be bigger wrestler.
You know who does a really good super kick? Well, Aleister Black does that spinning.
Oh yeah, different.
That's different. This speedball Mike Bailey guy in AEW is like barefoot. He throws good kicks.
All right, I got to check him out. I've not seen him.
I mean, you won't like him because he's not 250 pounds and 6'4", but.
I remember Sweet Stan Lane back in NWA. You watch him; he was always doing kicks. Also, there was a rumor that he was Lauren. What's the girl that the senator, whatever congressman with the well endowed congresswoman? She had that incident in a theater where she was like,
oh, Bobert.
Okay, there was a rumor that Stan Lane was her dad. Her illegitimate dad.
Yeah, I
for
remember
many
that.
years, but apparently in the last couple months, it's been repudiated.
Yeah, the internet's not being kind to her. They're saying that she's been linked to who was a previously engaged Kid Rock.
I mean, that sounds kind to me. That guy's the man. Yeah, we talked about Kid Rock plenty on this pod. I'll give him more shine to this WWE Hall of Famer and incredibly diverse musical artist. But yeah, there it is. Look, so
why doesn't he dress better?
I like the outfit he wore. It reminded me of like a honky tonk Hank Williams, Lefty Frizzell era honky tonk outfit, but he had the American Eagle, which was reminiscent of Elvis 1973 Aloha. So he's combining two iconic looks into one.
There was a congressional hearing.
Probably cost like 50 G's.
Yeah, no doubt. No, I do not dispute that. There was a congressional hearing where someone was like, you guys went at Zelensky for what he wore over there. And meanwhile, Kid Rock goes in the Oval Office, looks like he's about to jump over 10 school buses.
It was expensive. It was an expensive suit. It was an expensive suit.
All right.
It was an expensive suit.
My wrestler of the week, Chad Gable. Chad Gable, I love the guys that get to the Olympics as amateur wrestlers and then decide that they're going to try their hand at pro wrestling. Now, unfair to not mention, I mean, you got to mention the Kurt Angle comparisons. He's not Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle, from size, had more going for him. From a character perspective, had more going to him. Although Chad Gable certainly made incredible strides there. Was a part of an incredible tag team in American Alpha when NXT really had it cooking. And by the way, I've got all sorts of takes on how much NXT has actually fallen off.
We'll wait for Pete for that one. That's his wheelhouse.
Yeah, but but American Alpha, obviously working with FTR, and had great rivalry there. FTR certainly a skilled tag team that can make their opponents look good, but amateur base with Jason Jordan, who I maintain would have been a world champion with the special heat that he had prior to the injury. Chad Gable was left in no man's land. You're an undersized guy that's now a solo act. You're a single star now. What are we going to do with you? We're just going to use you to put people over. Vince McMahon had this horrible idea to make him Shorty G. It's such a Vince McMahon idea. I love guys that are able to rise above bad gimmicks. And then over the last year, I think particularly in 2024, Chad Gable had a renaissance of a year with his in-ring work, proving that you can still somehow, even in WWE, you can get over with your ring work in other promotions. It's harder to do in WWE with ring work alone. But he did it with ring work alone, and then he started adding the shoosh and the little sticky things that make you have a character that transcends. And I would say Gunther is going into WrestleMania against the aforementioned Jey Uso for a World Heavyweight Championship match. Gunther is not that elevated without that feud with Chad Gable. Chad Gable making him look like $1 million, and particularly Chad Gable's ability to make you believe he has a chance. I'm a big Chad Gable fan. Is an undersized guy that has all the athleticism. His move set is probably as good and varied from the ground, and he can do some aerial stuff too. Sells like you wouldn't believe. Shows that he can run a stable. There's a place in the card. There's a place in pro wrestling for guys that understand their place in programming. Hey, you need a solid 8:45 segment here on something that might otherwise be cut for time. I'll be your guy, whether it be a match or a backstage vignette. I will entertain. And Chad Gable, who had the opportunity to go to another promotion very recently and increase his star, decided to stay in the WWE and continue to tough it out and continue to bet on himself. I think that's a great, admirable trait. Haven't seen him in a little bit, unfortunately, but I think Chad Gable will be back in no time, no doubt. From
Minnesota, which is sneakily a cradle of great
pro wrestling,
pro wrestlers
and amateur.
Tiffany Stratton, the latest Minnesotan.
That's right? Incredible. Yeah, Kurt Hennig, Brock Lesnar, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, Minnesota, X-Pac, proud home to several.
I think Ravishing Rick Rude might be from somewhere around there. There's a lot of guys from that area. Yeah, he's from Minnesota, or was from Minnesota. Former Mike Ryan Wrestler of the Week. Chad Gable's the man. Like A45. What a classic! What a classic characterization. I'm stealing that. That's exactly what he is. Guys on every single show, holding it down. TV time shows you how good you are sometimes. I think his amount of TV time and consistency of TV time speaks volumes about.
I do think he'll get the crowning moment too. Like, this guy deserves like one of those mid-card titles. The IC strap, it eluded him. I do think that he'll one day get a crowning moment like that on the singles front, no doubt.
So I'm going with my wrestler of the week, something totally different. I'm going with El Grande Americano from the Gulf of America. Comes out to great entrance with the mariachi performance of that John Philip Sousa march, the Stars and Stripes. He comes out with that, got a huge pop in Minnesota, which is strange because that's not where he's from. He's from, the Gulf of America, a little further south. But love the skill he brings to the ring, the flair, taking the lucha style and adapting it, for the American style as well. I see the feud burgeoning with Rey Mysterio. That one has classic written all over it.
Yeah, they put him on the WrestleMania card.
Yeah, that could be a show stealer.
Meteoric rise for that. He was not on my radar at all. Didn't really know anything about this guy. And to say he burst onto the scene would be an understatement. This guy in a couple of weeks has put himself in position to be on a card against prior to someone that I would have said to be the greatest luchador of all time. I guess we'll settle that at WrestleMania. But this guy, early odds on favorite for Rookie of the Year. It's an incredible run so far.
The mask, what mask reminds me of a little bit? Remember the Patriot?
Mm-hmm.
The Patriot.
Yeah, this one is particularly ridiculous. So with the
little horns,
the horns sticking out, like a little Toro Loco stuff. you know me, I watch promotions from all across the world. I was not at all familiar with this guy whatsoever, but his act seems to be really connecting with a huge portion of the audience as well. This is certainly a name to keep an eye on.
I wonder if this other person that Pete found here is actually the original Grande Americano.
It's the AI version from the Netflix series.
Okay.
I was going to say I wasn't familiar with Grande Americano's family lineage. He's not a Grande Americano.
Second generation.
Junior.
Maybe second generation. Who knows?
But Grande Americano, another guy that finds himself in that like 8:45 time slot a little bit, doing what he can with that. Still an air of mystery to him. What's under the mask? Who is this person? Well, we may never know. I like the air of mystery, though.
By the way, I got to say, I didn't even put this together. Pete, this is like Pete's classic wrestler, because Pete, for those of us who know Pete, will call everybody either L and then their name, or Big and their name. So El Grande is like, that's the culmination of the Pete nickname. There you guys drop that on the next on whoever earns the El Grande.
No, it doesn't work like that. It's still I actually, when I want to give someone a double nickname, I call them El Big.
El Big.
Yeah. You got to go back to Big. It's still in there. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we'll move on to.
Well, unless Pete has a
none this week.
Oh,
no, this week. No, I have to let you guys down sometimes.
These movers in your house
There's
have
not, it's not
upended
movers.
your whole life.
It's not movers.
That's a shame.
It's okay. Just, I got to keep you guys honest sometimes.
There's some people in the.
Juan Manuel, I don't think that's right. I do not think El Grande Americano is Chad Gable.
You know what? You know what's weird is that when I thought that you guys were doing it for a certain reason, because when I searched his name, it kept saying El Grande Americano Chad Gable. That there must be like some conspiracy.
No, I understand. Like they have similar body types, but no, it's very clearly not the same.
Yeah, one's from Minnesota. The
other guy's
lakes,
from the Gulf of America.
From the Gulf of America with the salt water.
Mm-hmm.
So different people. So we're keeping it country though. I like the theme here, Mike. The Americana theme of the.
I'll give you guys a song of the week later. I sent it to you earlier.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That was a good one, man.
I can't believe you just heard this song for the first time.
And I'll tell the story after how I found out. Should I do it now?
Yeah. Let me lay out. Pete, your song of the week.
Let me get the name of it again. Hold on a second. I was listening to it on the way over here.
Other Side.
Other Side from the album Californication Deluxe Edition, Red Hot Chili Pepper. It was 1999. Crazy. Cool album.
How'd it hit you?
So Emery Williams posted a story the other day, overlooking the Lake Osceola on campus, and I thought it was a beautiful picture and a beautiful song, and I sent it to Mike after, and I was like, dude, this is a banger.
Have you heard this? Yeah, I'd heard it. It's one of the more seminal rock albums.
Dude, it was good. It was good. Thank you, Emery.
Yeah. So you discovered the music through Emery Williams.
Yes.
And that's your first time really.
And it was a little bit of a sad song, so I was kind of wondering what the meaning of it was. Well, we don't have to talk about that right now.
I think it's about anal.
Really? Huh? Maybe.
You can't discount it.
I can't discount it.
If you take the inventory.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. Huh. Wow.
My song of the week is a song called Maxed Out, and it's by a new and exciting artist, Baker Blankenship. And I really like country music. That may not come off here. I haven't picked a country song, I think, with any of my songs of the week. I like alt country, what has been called outlaw country. That's not what this is. This is more alt. This is this big boy, Baker Blankenship, has a voice that doesn't match the body. Very adolescent sounding voice. I'm a huge fan of his EP. Burned it from end to end for several weeks on end. That song Maxed Out is a great country song. Tennessee Sunset is another beautiful song. I really like this young man. He hasn't put out a full proper LP yet. Hopefully some in our audience were lucky enough to see him at Tortuga.
Did you just say LP?
Yeah, no, not LP. LP. A full-length album, a full-length studio album. He hasn't put one of those out yet. I imagine that's coming. He's still doing the country music touring musician type of deal. He was at Tortuga at the Next Set on Nashville stage last Friday. So I had a couple friends. College Mike was out there, sent me a video of my big boy over here, Baker Blankenship. But great voice, non-traditional country voice, certainly not a non-traditional look. But if you like songwriting, Baker Blankenship delivers that in droves, I think. And it's a nice, fresh, young voice on the scene. So check it out. Give it a spin. I really like this song.
He looks like the kind of guy that was coming on Kane's Insight to troll when it looked like Francis Mauigoa was going to Tennessee or something.
I was
like
gonna
that.
say that looks like me in 11th grade riding around listening to Rick Ross in my car on the right.
You weren't quite as burly.
Oh, it was pretty big.
Yeah, but yeah, I like the song. I hadn't heard it until you sent it to me this morning. I like how it's it's like an old theme of going to drink when you're down on your luck. It's a classic country theme, but he updated his Jack and Cokes.
Yeah,
he's maxing out credit cards, things that you didn't hear in the 40s and 50s with the honky tonk. So kind of a new twist.
Check out that entire
style.
EP. He's got a collaboration album too that with another artist I wasn't all that familiar with, and every song that I guess it's his voice, the tenor of his voice, it's very young sounding, and it's not something that you usually associate with that sound, but it felt new and exciting, and I literally am a fan of everything he's put out. There hasn't been a single Baker Blankenship song that I've listened to that I'm like, yeah, this is kind of whack. I don't skip a single one.
Goes to Nevada, so I know if he can play guard.
I mean, you get him here with this coaching staff. Mirabal, look what he's done with.
He would like the body type. He would really think that he's an intriguing body type.
Doesn't look very upwardly mobile from the videos that I've seen. They kind of keep him stationary a little bit.
Scott's saying, why am I clearly mistaken about El Grande Americano being the same as Chad Gable?
We all make
I could see, they're both very athletic, but obviously, fundamental differences between the two performers. So I'm going to stick in country. I am, as you know, I got to learn more about new music. I'm kind of stuck in the old days. So I'm taking this one back to 1978. And this is a live performance in 78. The song was written in the 60s, and it's going to be Merle Haggard, Sing Me Back Home, live in Austin City Limits. This whole performance in 1978 is available on YouTube, which to me is one of the best just overall concert videos ever on YouTube. There's 78 Austin City Limits. He was already a veteran at that point. The song came out in the 60s, and to understand,
how old was he in that photo on the right?
He's probably like his late.
I bet
40s,
you he was 27. I bet you he was 27.
Wrong. False. Merle Haggard actually had the ladies going crazy in his younger days. Looked a lot more like the guy from Bulworth, Warren Beatty.
Really?
Picture like a Warren Beatty type. Get a young Merle Haggard there, Pete. Pull up some young Merle Haggard on Google Image.
Was there ever a young Merle Haggard? His last name is quite literally Haggard.
His hairline was always kind of questionable.
You can do that in country music.
His hairline was always kind of questionable, which explains the hat. But he was young at one time. So to understand, all jokes aside, I put this particular song as, if you're asking me top 5 songs of all time, if you're just really being honest about everything that's in the song, I put this song right there on the list. Honestly, no anything. And the reason is you got to understand the whole story of Merle and how this song came to be. So Merle, he comes from the Okies, which when the Dust Bowl hit in Oklahoma, people are down on their lucks. So a lot of them moved to California, to oil country, Bakersfield, Oildale, where he's from. There's a young
from
Merle.
Muskogee.
Exactly. The reason that song had such resonance is because the Okies, when they came to California, were kind of like the low class because they left no money from Oklahoma and then go to California as, basically a different culture than was in California.
I think you missed the image. Peter did put up an image of young Merle Haggard. Merle Haggard was born 42 years old. There's no way, like he did not look young.
The ladies loved him.
He just had a different hairstyle.
The ladies loved them anyway. So
it was like when Kevin Spacey did that Bobby Darin pick, and all they did was just they just put like a more full wig on him to convey that he was in his 20s. Merle Haggard came out the womb 42.
Although I gotta say, it's like I heard a discussion about Sheryl Crow in this category. When people look old when they're young, they look better when they're old.
It's a secret to aging. Paul Giamatti looks like he's aged with such grace because Paul Giamatti's always looked that way.
Pig vomit. So anyways, back to Merle here. So growing up, poor oil country California, looked down upon because he was an Okie. His family was Okies. Dad died when he was young, so he got to stealing and kind of going with the wrong crowd. So he actually went to jail many times. And when he go to jail, he would escape from the jail. So because of his constant escapes, he was sent to San Quentin, which San Quentin is about as bad as it gets from a jail standpoint at that time. Even though his crimes were relatively minor, theft and things like that, he was in a maximum security prison because he would escape so much. So he's in there with death row inmates, serial killers, like just crazy people because of the fact that, he was bound to escape. So they put him in a very hard to escape jail. So while he's there, Johnny Cash goes and does, he's doing the Folsom Prison. He did that for a lot of prisons, San Quentin being one of them. And everybody saw Johnny Cash and like, Merle, man, you're a way better singer than this guy. You're a better song. You're better than this guy. You should be him. And Johnny Cash never, went to prison like that. That was him singing a song about what he thought it might be. Like Merle was in there seeing it from the prisoner standpoint and said, I could do better than that. So Merle goes out, ends up being probably the best country singer of all time. And this particular song right here, Sing Me Back Home, is a kind of fact and fiction story about how there was a death row inmate. And again, he knew a lot of these guys when he was there, who's about to get executed. And he says, hey, my friend over here is a guitar player, meaning Merle, the singer of the song. Let him sing me a song from when I was a kid that my mom used to sing me before I die, so I can feel that old nostalgia. So the song is extremely simple chord progression, melody-wise, very simple. But in this song, which is very authentic because, again, this is not like somebody just talking about how it might be. This is someone who's in the belly of the beast. You got life, death, murder. You got people that are trying to go for nostalgia, the innocence of youth, all of these things, religion. He may ask Merle to sing a gospel song as well. All of this in this very simple song, but it's extremely heavy and it hits real because it's not like some guy in Brooklyn writing a song. This is the guy who was in the jail with all these guys. So he's singing it from a real perspective. Very simple songwriting, still holds up. It's been covered by a ton of people. Keith Richards covered it when he was waiting sentencing in Toronto in the 70s. Grateful Dead's covered it a ton, but no version is better than this live performance by Merle in 1978 because he is the one.
68, no?
The song was in the 60s. The performance was in the 70s, the one right here on the playlist. So it's just everything clicking on all cylinders. His band, The Strangers, was on fire at this period. They toured constantly. Also, his band was an influence on the Beatles, believe it or not. Help, Rubber Soul. They got a lot from that Bakersfield, Merle Haggard sound with the high treble, different kind of sound at that time. But just a lot going on here. I recommend anybody who likes real music, check out Merle Haggard, 1978, Austin City Limits. The whole performance is outstanding.
How locked into this conversation do you think Amon Richards is?
I think we might have lost him with El Grande Americano about 20 minutes ago.
All right, we'll talk to you next week.
Wait, hold on. Let's bring it up a little bit here. We
got the spring game. What are you guys doing for spring game coverage here? Because there's a lot of people that want to know how they can see this thing.
Well, I know you're at a gala, High Society. Great cause, by the way. Plug the gala.
Yes, I'm going to be doing the Blue Missions gala that's honoring Ron McGill this Saturday. It's a really great foundation that does a lot of great work, primarily in the DR, which certainly could use a lot of help right now. T's and P's go out there. They go out to underserved areas, areas that don't have access to clean water, and they install water filtration systems. They also teach the people how to build their own water filtration systems. This is not a political cause. It is a human cause. This is something that we all know does real, legitimate, tangible good. And this is a local foundation that does a lot of great work. I'm honored to be hosting this gala. Unfortunately, it's going to take me away from the spring game, but that's all right. I'm always traveling during the spring game. There's a much better reason to miss it than for what I'd miss it for next week, which is WrestleMania.
Yeah. By the way, definitely not a political deal. A friend of mine from very much the other side of the aisle is also involved and reached out. But
what is that? I don't know what you're
or from a side of the aisle. It's not political.
I'm not really on. I say the aisle's moved. BlueMissions.org, by the way, if you want to find ways to even attend this event, there's you can donate and get yourself tickets are sold out. I'm seeing that right now for the Blue Gala.
All right, well, it doesn't mean you can't support the foundation.
You can still support the foundation. They do really good work, and they have all sorts of information about what they do there. Thank you so much, Dee, for the opportunity to promote this. I took some time out, met with them, was really floored at all the really good work that they do. And these are guys and girls that are from this community that decided to put their time, effort, and resources to making other people's lives better. And quite honestly, you never know when you might need it. We're in a part of the country that is always susceptible to big name storms and life-changing events down here that it's something that you take for granted, but take away your access to clean water. And you can get educated on water filtration systems and how you can help really across the world.
No, it's a great cause. I'll be at a fundraiser of a different kind, a less noble cause, but still important. After you've made your tax-deductible donations for the good of society. Now you want to have some fun with the money. So this is not either or. CanesConnection.com/CIS. I'll be hosting something for Canes Connection members after.
Or you
the
can be
spring
like me
game.
and give to both.
You give to both. In fact, you should give to both. I'll be there at the Titanic for Canes Connection members exclusive. If you're not a member, sign up CanesConnection.com/CIS. Get in there. We'll do a meet and greet. The top players on the team will be there, and we'll be talking post spring game stuff. I'll be meeting people exclusive for Canes Connection members. So if you're not a member, join the cause. Be part of the solution of Canes football. CanesConnection.com/CIS. And of course, the Miami Hurricane team store when you want the best apparel for the Miami Hurricanes, basketball, baseball, football. Promo code INSIGHT20. You get 20% off, and you're looking sharp there on Saturday. Why don't you go there? It's right across the street, Thesis Hotel. Go to the Miami Hurricane team store right across the street from the spring game. Get your stuff 20% off with the promo code INSIGHT20, and then come back to the spring game looking like $1 million. Pete, you got anything?
Nope.
Dynamite drop in. We will see you all next week.
I'm not really sure what you meant with the aisle thing. I'm still trying to figure that one out.